The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Tuesday, September 4th, Wednesday, September 5th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network at Deep Talk Radio, and we say hello to each and every one of you. And if you want to take a listen to our archives, you go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. They are free for you to listen to. Just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Don't forget, you can right now go to questers.ca and click on the Fall Conference. Get your tickets for the first annual Caribou Paracon, presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. We get going September 28th through 30th, just a couple of weeks away. You're going to love our lineup. Grant Cameron, Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and so many more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Ensuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Go to spacedoutradio.com, click on the Ensuho banner, and subscribe to the channel today. It's the first Tuesday of the month, which means we are live with the Spiritual You with our good friend Geraldine Orozco from Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California. Geraldine is an experiencer and a pranic healer who comes in to teach us everything about how to help ourselves both spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. Whether it's depression, anxiety, meditation, yoga, or even ET contact, Geraldine has studied and researched the answers that have come to her through the research or her own personal experiences. An entrepreneur by trade, Geraldine tonight will discuss dimensions and what's going on in some sort of parallel universe, as well as how to find our own ascension into higher learning and spirituality. Then in the bottom of hour number 3, Everett Themer will be back with our latest edition of The Encounter. The lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco. Always great to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Dave. I'm wonderful and amazing. Thank you so much for introducing, and I hope everyone's having an incredible night tonight. We have a great show with a lot of exciting things that we're going to talk about. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing good. You know what? I'm a little excited right now, and I have to tell you why. On our local community Facebook page, everybody in my area, there's like 5 different posts of big bear in the area, big bear in the area. There is like bears all around my area right now. In my 3 years of living here, I've never seen so many black bear reports. It's awesome.
Wow, that's beautiful. What makes them come out? What's making them come out right now?
Well, they're getting ready. I mean, it's an early fall here, even though it's still summer. It's a very early fall here, and these bears, they're prepping for hibernation. So in our area, the deer have figured out that this is a no hunting zone. So the deer have been congregating and breeding here for years, and they're now starting to have a lot of twins and triplets. Well, when you have that many young deer running around, it attracts predatory animals like bears and cougars. Now, I haven't heard of any cougar reports, but the bear reports, my God, they are absolutely everywhere. It's awesome.
Wow, that's so nice. I hope you get a picture of those and put it up sometime if you do get a picture. Well,
you know what? I got pictures from a couple weeks ago, just very close to my house, of a black bear. My buddy Bazooka Joe in the chat room, he lives about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from me, just down the road. And the other night, he was sitting on his couch and he was watching this black bear about 20 feet from his patio. So he chased that one out of the yard. You know, because Bazooka Joe is pretty scary. I mean, when he rips his shirt off, I mean, he looks like a human Sasquatch, right? So he goes and chases that one out, and then he walks to the front of his house to make sure there was no bear doo-doo on his driveway. And lo and behold, there's another black bear walking towards him on his driveway. And so he tries to get into the front door of his house, and it's locked.
Oh my gosh, what did he do?
Well, I have a feeling what he did was that he got down on all fours and chased it out. I mean, he has that Sasquatch look going for him. But, there's a lot of fruit trees in our area. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fruit trees in our area. So, between that and going through garbage cans, the bears they're lazy hunters. And right down the hill from me, like literally if I walked 300 feet, there's a husband and wife who have a bee farm, a honeybee farm. So they got bears in there looking for honey. We got bears everywhere. Love it.
Oh, my gosh. That is so beautiful. How nice to be in the middle of that. We're over here in the city, and there's not too many bears out here. Very rarely do we see a bear. I mean, I've never seen a bear in my area, so...
When's the last time you saw a bear in the wild?
I'm going to say when I was about 12 years old and I went camping for the first time. And that's it. Can you believe that?
Wow.
That was a while ago.
Well, considering you're, 25, that wasn't that long ago.
Right. 25, that's right.
Well,
we'll just say that on tonight.
All right. You look it, though. But,
that's good.
We are totally dodging the wildlife right now. It's pretty awesome. Now, You see, a lot of people won't believe me, but I have a ghost in my yard.
Really?
And I met this ghost 3 years ago. I actually saw him. I saw him the day we moved in, and then I saw him a few weeks later, and he actually was standing right in front of a tree in my backyard and disappeared right in front of me. And
You
so
actually saw this ghost, you're saying. That's
Oh, yeah.
amazing. What did he look like, Dave?
Oh, he looked like a very slim gentleman. I mean, he looked like he was dressed in like 70s attire, where he had the light faded blue jeans with a white T-shirt on and white runners, and he had a mustache and darker hair. You know, I don't want to call it a mullet, but it was close to that. And
Really?
he disappeared. And I had a psychic friend named Angie on the air that night. And Angie's in New York, never seen my house, because at that point I'd never even put a photograph up or where I lived, and I barely even had a photo of me on the internet at that point. And I was like, this just happened, and all of a sudden she tuned into him. And she's like, do you have an extension that was put on the back of your house? She goes, I'm seeing an extension that was built. He's confused by this because there is... it seems like he used to have a woodworking bench in behind the house. And I said, as a matter of fact, yes, there is an extension that was put on the house. I don't know when, because my house is like 43 years old. And she goes, well, he's looking for it. She goes, is there any way you could put some wood in your carport? I said, absolutely, I can. I said, but I need a favor from this guy. And she goes, well, just tell him, because like we're having this three-way conversation, her psychically in New York, him apparently like within feet of me, and I can't see him, and then there's me. And I said, I need a favor. I said, because I said, I need him to keep the bears and the cougars out of our yard. And his response was kind of snarky to Angie, who repeated it to me, which was, you know where you live, right?
Oh my God.
And I'm
hilarious.
like, and so
you actually channeled that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I said to him, I said, well, I understand that. I said, but I also have the little guy. And I really don't want any predators coming in to try and take down my little guy, because I kind of like him. And he goes, not a problem. And I'll tell you, the previous 6 weeks to that, my garbage can had been knocked over. Didn't matter where I put it in my yard. My garbage can had been knocked over probably 5 times out of 6 weeks. So I had to go clean up the garbage. Like, the bears are smart here. They figured out when garbage day is. And,
oh my God.
And anyhow, my garbage can has never been tipped over since.
Oh, wow. You're kidding. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
he's actually doing what he promised he's going to be doing.
He does an impeccable job. Well, the weird part about it was my wife forgot about the deal and about him. And so last year when we came back from the forest fires and being evacuated, we had to clean out our entire fridge and freezer because all of our food was rotten because they had to cut the power for like 4 or 5 days. And so as I'm taking the garbage out, this is a Saturday, garbage day is Thursday, I said out loud, I said, Rick, I really need a favor here. And because my buddy Tony, who lived across the street from me, he was a volunteer firefighter, and in this area there was a giant black bear that moved in when the people moved out. And so he had forewarned me about putting garbage in the garbage can. I said, don't worry about it. I got my boy Rick looking at it. And so anyways, a couple nights after, my wife is putting our little guy to sleep, and his bedroom window is right at the front of the house because we have a rancher. And she sees the shadow of a man standing right in front of our garbage cans.
Oh my goodness.
And she's like, there's a shadow person of a man right in front of our garbage cans. I'm like, yeah, that's Rick. She goes, Rick who? I said, remember our ghosts in our yard that make sure our garbage cans don't get tipped over? She's like, oh yeah. I said, well, go thank him. We don't want to piss him off.
Oh my goodness, that is just something. Can you believe that? And she wasn't scared? How did she deal with that? I mean, that's pretty.
You just kind of deal with it. Just kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you know who this man is? I mean, did he used to live there? I mean, what's the story? He just attaches to the space.
He apparently lived here in the 70s. I don't know how he died. Okay, but he said to Angie that he loved the property. And he was very concerned. He's like, "Don't worry, I don't come in the house. I just like walking around the property." So I said, "Okay." That's cool. I said, "That's cool. You just do what you need to do." But apparently, he really likes it when we mention him. So he likes to be acknowledged, and so we try to acknowledge him. Like, I'll go outside and I'll say, "Hey, Rick, how you doing?" You know what I'm saying? Just to make sure that he knows that I know he's there and I give a care about him. That's just kind of the fun part about it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And as long as he is helping you out and being a high vibrational being in your space, hey, why not, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you got, as long as you keep it positive, you're good.
Right.
You're very good.
Right.
I got a little bit of interesting news coming in on my phone right now. My web person and my social media person, Catherine, she goes, "Dave, I crap you not." She used a swear word, though. She goes, "I just saw two UFOs come over me in Colorado right now. I was walking out to work, and Venus was extremely bright and flashing in my eyes. I needed my glasses. I went inside for a few minutes looking for my glasses and decided that my phone should work. So I used the phone to get pics and video. While I was taking the footage, I got flashed with light, and it threw my phone completely out of focus. So I started recording anyways because I could not see the shape again." Very,
wow.
very
What part
interesting.
of Colorado is she in?
I'm sorry?
What part of Colorado is she in?
I have no idea. I think she's in the Colorado Springs area.
Wow, Colorado, I tell you, I was just there. Well, I went there twice last month, and I had some serious experiences. I mean, that place doesn't sleep when it comes to this kind of activity. I got to tell you, it is just all over the place. So that's amazing.
I've never been to Colorado, but,
Really?
the Cascade Mountains that run from British Columbia down to the tip of California, those are pretty hairy, too, for a lot of experiences. Something about the mountains always seems to attract UFOs. Have you noticed that?
Well, I got to say, yes, perhaps. But in Colorado, the experience that I had was regarding bases, underground bases, actually. And I had a
you
very
gotta explain that.
Oh boy. I don't know. I mean, that was a very intense experience that I had, and it was including someone else that was there with me. So we had like double confirmation of having this experience of having contact. And it was right next to the mountains there. Where was I? Well, when this happened, I was in Hooper, Colorado, right around that area. I was speaking at a conference, actually. And, oh my goodness, yes, I had contact. And not just extraterrestrial contact, but also on the other spectrum. You're looking at military contact. So that's pretty common down there as far as what I'm looking at, and it looks like it has a lot to do with the bases there, and I'm sure they have a lot to do with the extraterrestrials and UFO sightings that are there as well. So, yeah.
Well, believe him or not, that's kind of where Stan Romanek had a lot of his issues in the Colorado Springs area.
That's correct. You're right. Yes, exactly. And my gosh, after going there and seeing the kind of energy and what's going on there, I mean, I'm not surprised that a lot of people have contact down there. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how people can deny the fact of their existence with so much going on down there, It's interesting place.
Moving forward here, as we'll touch on a lot of topics tonight because we got you for 2 hours, I want to get into dimensions. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because you and I talk about what we're going to talk about on the show beforehand, just like I do with every guest. And you're like, I want to talk about dimensions tonight. And I have to tell you how that kind of trips me out because I have, for the last couple of weeks, been really tripping out about like time slips and parallel universes, dimensions, and whether or not, some of these missing people who just up and disappear. I'm my imagination is going crazy right now, wondering if they've just walked into a different dimension. What have you studied upon dimensions?
Well, yeah, and I love that we talked about this because it's a question that I keep getting, and I have one of our listeners that asked about it too, actually, and she was confused about the concept of dimensions and what they actually mean. And we kind of started out tonight talking about, ghosts, for example, and so that is a pretty clear example of how we are connecting with other dimensions, how they bleed through, how dimensions bleed through, right? Because this person is not a solid being, human being, but they are there energetically and maybe in the shadow form. So some kind of a manifestation of energy of light that is being manifested that seeps through into this dimension. So when we talk about dimensions, and this kind of interdimensional travel, like people leaving dimensions, coming back into dimensions, which I've experienced myself with my own abduction experiences, we are talking about defining space and time. Okay, so when we talk about dimensions, we are defining space and time. But more than that, from our physical perspective, we tend to think of dimensions as the parameters of identifying the space that a certain object can take, or the space that it occupies in a space. And when we talk about further dimensions, we are actually talking about, and actually the Aristotelian concept to physics doesn't necessarily talk about taking account for the empty space or the lack of matter within a space. So, there's many different levels to talking about dimensions, but the angle that I want to take tonight is focusing on the different dimensions in our reality and how they affect us in terms of our ascension, and also how they play a role and how they bleed through for us to experience things like ghosts, like even extraterrestrials, which are manipulating time and space to come in and out of our physical dimension here. And like you're mentioning, people that are, taken or disappearing into different spaces and, we don't know where they went. So what's happening there? So when we're talking about physical dimension, everything that we have here within this space is vibrating at a specific or oscillating. Every single molecule of an object is oscillating at a certain vibration in order to create its mass, okay? And that mass will give it its shape, it'll give it its color, it'll give it its texture, and it'll define this, from that oscillation, the molecules that are making up this particular organism. Let's say it's an organism, and I want to use that term because we're going to expand this concept as far as we can so we can understand the whole structure of dimensional reality that we're in. So we are here within, let's say, a room with different objects, and each one of these things are made out of the same constant, okay, the same constant, which is this consciousness or these molecules, let's say these molecules, and all of them are, aligned in different, substances to create whatever they make, and they are around us, they surround us. Humans, we are a combination of different things. As multidimensional beings, what makes us different in this reality is that we are a combination of many different vibrational frequencies that make up our entire whole organism. And what I mean by that is that the human, for example, we have the physical body, we have the ethereal body, we have the emotional body, we have our auric field. And so within that is many different levels. The first 7 bodies are what we utilize to navigate this physical realm because they help us interact with the different pieces and of this architecture, of this, physical reality that we live in. So people, animals, beings, multidimensional beings, physical matter, and so on and so forth, we are able to interact with all of these many different moving parts of our reality consciously. So that's what makes humans different. When we talk about dimensions and how we are moving in and out, an entire organism would have to shift its vibrational frequency in alignment with other aspects that are surrounding itself in order to move into that different dimensional reality. So, for example, if you're talking about someone that was, removed out of an environment, then physically the entire organism has to shift in its vibrational frequency in order to be in alignment with the desired location of which he's going to be in, or she is going to be, next popping up in. And this is very interesting because we always tend to think of our life as being, oftentimes we think of it as being just, very limited dimensions of our perception and what is around us, our action, our reaction to everything around us, and everything that we see in front of us. It's very physical, it's very material, and it's a product of what we are doing. But what we fail to remember oftentimes is that we're living in a multidimensional reality in which there are many layers of perception. For example, when we reach in front of us, we have something in front of us, like we have a computer. If we reach behind us, we have something else behind us. If we reach to the sides, we might have other objects around you. So in every direction around you, there are different things that are going to meet at the end of those extensions. And so when we become aware of the space that we're in, if we move to another space, we're going to be changing all of those surroundings. So in that same way, the way that we look at dimensions, there's many different roles that each piece of our reality plays, right? So, for example, if we move into another room with other people, then the entire architecture of the space that we're in is going to change in regards to frequency. We're now going to be in front of other complex human organisms that are around us. And so, it would be great for people to start looking at things like that, our surroundings are made up of many different aspects of frequency, of, information that make up what they are. And it's important to understand that also in our ascension because as a whole, this entire reality that we live in is constantly moving. Everything is moving, okay? And we're probably going to get into the levels of the different dimensions to talk about that. But from my experience, how we can define moving through dimensions and what defines that is the frequency, the base frequency of each one of those layers of reality. And those dimensions are going to be made up of a different architecture, shifting in different things in their physics and what makes up what they are, And our physics right now, we are just going into understanding dimensions. Actually, it's a very new thing that we're trying to comprehend. We still have so much more to learn about it as we come into quantum physics and metaphysics to understand how we are relating with space, with spatial reality and how it relates to our existence. So then we want to go down to more of a different perspective of what frequency is and the definitions of that.
So when it comes to these dimensions that people are experiencing, are they experiencing them on a physical level, or is this in a dream or trance state?
Well, you can experience them in both, because both of those are different dimensions. That's a great example of showing different dimensions, because in our waking time, this is one dimension that we're in, connected with a 3D reality, which things are physical here around us. And throughout our day, we are often in and out of different dimensions actually as well, because we are tapping into our thoughts. Sometimes we are in the future, sometimes we're in the past. And what we need to understand is that because we're multidimensional beings, all of the thought processes and experiences and emotions that we tap in to as an organism is, in a way, choosing separate realities, separate timelines, possibilities, alternate realities. And this is how we are creating our experience. We are tapping into those different dimensions of reality. And so we have the option of pulling from those and experiencing different things at the same during our entire waking time. Now, during dream time, it's the same. We have access to other dimensions which are working at different levels of reality. And when we are sleeping, when we are, dreaming in REM state, the entire body is in a different state, and the brain will access different aspects of our brain that are opening different areas of information, of consciousness. And in that, we are accessing different levels of reality. And so that's how we have maybe like astral travel experiences, or, we start to experience things. Now, something that's interesting about when we talk about ascension and spirituality, and that I have seen that because we live in such a complex reality of different dimensions, the human, in order to ascend in this reality, actually has, let's say, its soul contractual agreement, its soul work here on this earth is not limited to what he does in the waking time. Okay, the soul, when it comes into this planet, understands that it's coming into a multidimensional reality, and the kind of work for its ascension, for its healing, and for ultimately as coming in as a conscious fractal of source, has the understanding that it may want to leave this reincarnation cycle that we are in. Okay, if we talk about the ascension cycle. Now, in that, the human has the access to doing all of this work that it's supposedly, quote unquote, contractually agreed to for its own ascension or its own evolution. And that work may be carried out during dream time, during waking time, and during its ability to access different dimensions of reality from the mind. So, and so these contractual agreements that we have, I talked a lot this week about the topic of ancestral connections and, our whole entire network of people that we come into, our soul groups. And it's interesting because when we come into the physical body, from what I've seen, the soul comes into the lineage of its ancestral lineage and also its DNA. And based on the information that it's aligning with in the physical body, it's going to take on a lot of, cycling traumas, cycling information that the soul is going to take on. So when we work on clearing this up, we're actually accessing dimensions of our existence, of our information, that can take us all the way back to centuries ago for the origin of our soul. And so when we're not working on a plane, on a flat plane of existence here. Okay, there are many different levels to this reality, and in that, when we are working with our ascension, we have to be able to access all aspects of that, cleaning up and moving all of that stagnant energy that is connected to the soul, that the soul is tied to energetically to that information. So even when the human is cleaning up this kind of information, it has the option to move into dream time, because dream time is another dimension in which we are also operating. And, it's one that when we are cleaning up, we have the option of learning how to become aware and conscious in that dream time and to clean up all of these contractual agreements as well. And that's where some of the most important work is being done for humans here on this planet. So that's one aspect of it.
I have to tell you, I'm a little confused on how we can run in all of these different dimensions at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, well, the thing is that we think that we're so physical. We think that we're just this physical body, and then we only have our reaction to the external world around us. But you see, everything that we are thinking, imagine this, how would you define the spatial, how would you calculate your thought, for example? How would you calculate a thought? So, when we talk about dimensions, it's like we're calculating space. We're calculating space and time. So even our thoughts are a reality that's being created on some plane, on some level. It is, we're tapping into certain information when we come into a thought. We're pulling in memories from the past. We're sometimes coming into the future. So we are moving interdimensionally within our mind to access information to create any given thought. And, that, for example, is how we move in and out of dimensions. That's a very simplistic way to explain it. But another way of explaining that is if you look at the body, the human body, and the fact that it is an organism, very complex, it has access to different dimensions based on its frequency as well. And so this goes on to the topic of timelines. And timelines, when I talk about timelines, I'm talking about, all of the possibilities of reality that we have accessible to us at any given time. So in our lifetime, throughout our day, we are making choices, constantly building and constructing our life with our choices, with how we feel, with the things that we do. And all of those choices that we make are constant options that we can take. And depending on the options that we take at any given time, they can shift our timeline. They can shift the results of our life. They can change our life completely. And in that, it allows us the opportunity to move vibrationally through that, because everything is energy in a sense, right? Everything is energy. So whatever we are creating and co-creating with the world around us will define our frequency as a whole organism, as a whole human organism. And so if you, for example, decide to go down this path where you're going to go do drugs and, you're in constant despair and stressed out and you're always looking for that next escape, then your life is going to go down that linear timeline. And so all the consequent things that are going to occur connected to that possibility are going to be presented to you, unlike if you chose a different choice in your life. And so that timeline will take you down another perspective, another option of living. So this is how we're moving interdimensionally, but we don't tend to think of things like this as dimensions. But it's important to think of it as dimensions because dimensions are accessible to us based on our frequency. And when we are talking about ascension, when we are moving through this constant evolution, let's say, of the soul, we have the option to move through those things by the choices that we're making.
When you're in a dream state and you enter another dimension, are you going there on a soul level, an astral level, or are you even supposed to be there?
That's a great question. I would say all of them are a possibility, but when we say soul level, I mean, the soul level is not separate from us. We are our soul. Our soul makes up our entire organism. It is what runs this entire system. It's basically the software that runs this mechanism of a body, and also the subconscious mind, of course. So when we go into astral travel, that is accessing another dimension of our whole make, of our architecture, that is allowing us to access different aspects of this reality. So, those are two separate things. Astral travel is one thing, and that's when we leave our physical body and our consciousness is now in another realm of reality. So I wouldn't define it as a soul level. Maybe consciousness is a better word, because it's the consciousness that it has the ability and the freedom to move through interdimensionally. And with it, it either pulls or leaves behind the physical three-dimensional aspect of this organism, right? Because the physical body is the three-dimensional aspect of our entire whole organism. Are we supposed to be there? Absolutely. I mean, and as I was saying earlier, some of the work that I'm coming into now is actually on a much larger scale, healing networks, healing groups, soul groups of people. And that being said, it's almost as if we believe that we have to do a lot of work on healing the body and the trauma of the physical life and everything that we're experiencing. But on a higher level, there's another level of reality that is silent, that is another dimension that all of us share, connected consciously in that network. And in that network is a much deeper level of intricate connections to each other through experiences, through vibrational realities, and through our entire genetic, let's say, change that we've had since the origin of our soul essence on this planet. We have come from the idea that we have been very heavily genetically altered since the beginning of time, and so we have become this combination of a lot of different information. So because of that, in order to really leave that reincarnation cycle that we believe, we have to clean up all of those ties that are in this physical dimension emotionally, because emotions are our number one guidance in the physical realm. And when we get up to the higher levels, we're working on different levels where we're targeting and accessing different information.
The reason why I asked that is a couple of years ago, I had a dream. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that I learned about this dream was I was in a place where I met my doppelganger. But I knew it was me, and I knew it was a different dimension. And this was literally the evil me. And I don't remember much from it. I remember it was in a dark street corner, like an all-American type small town with the old, wooden fascias on the front of the streets, and there was, street lights out, and there was only one person. It was raining, and there was one person there, and it was me and Mrs. SOR, and I walked over to this person to get directions to a hotel or something like that. And I was looking at me, except it was the dark me. And this scared me a little bit because he knew I was him and I knew he was me. And he even said to me, "Get out of here. You shouldn't be here." And then he said very sternly, "If I wasn't you, I'd kill you right now."
My goodness.
Yeah, so when it comes to those types of experiences and say running into yourself, and like I said, I don't know if that was an experience or if that was a dream, but it's always kind of made me wonder, are we living multiple lives at the same time?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And so, a lot of people ask me about things like this. But there's something that I want to, also talk about here, and that is when we see or have these kinds of dreams, one of the highest levels of consciousness that we would want to achieve is to be conscious in dream state. Okay, we talk about lucid dreaming and the ability to control the dreams and to be conscious in dreams. And I believe that is one of the levels that we want to achieve throughout our lifetime with our spiritual work. Because, as I mentioned, in dream time, we are sleeping. We're sleeping, and we believe that our conscious mind is also sleeping, but it's when our conscious mind and our subconscious mind is extremely active. Our subconscious mind is active, not the conscious. And so the subconscious mind is accessing all sorts of things that are locked within the information of our mind. And it is there in the recesses of our mind that are holding on to information that needs to be either healed or addressed or transformed. And so in this dream state, we can access many different levels or layers of information. And one of those things is an access to different timelines. So, for example, this experience, it could have been a couple of things. It could have been you accessing a different timeline and tapping into yourself in an alternate reality, just as you mentioned. That is a possibility. But it can also be that this was, a projection of some sort that's projecting any kind of subconscious feeling or emotion about yourself. So, it could be many different things. But the important thing to take out of it is so when we have these experiences, to be able to work through training ourselves to become conscious enough to understand how to interact with it and to define whether this is an apparition of some sort, or it's a reflection of ourselves, or it's a manifestation of another timeline that we're living in. And so to be able to interact with these kinds of experiences is really important, because a lot of us, we feel that we are completely helpless to those things. That's not something that we have control of. But over time, I have to tell you, in my personal journey, I have been able to have a lot of control in my dreams. And most of the time when I dream, I am extremely conscious that I am dreaming, and I'm interacting with what's occurring. And a lot of times they end up being lessons or healings or opportunities for healing that I am not doing in my waking time. Okay. The other aspect of this is, another reason why I talk about this is because some of us have experiences, like, for example, my lab experience, or, abductions or extraterrestrial contact or apparitions of some beings. And so what we want to be able to get to is a point where we can define whether these are high vibrational experiences or low vibrational, or just entities that are coming into our space. Because a lot of this technology of ET contact, or, and a lot of, all of these, even my lab experiences, have the ability of screening a lot of images. And so they can alter, any experience that you're having in your dream time, even in your dream time. So that's why I'm saying that it's very important to understand how to become, or train ourselves to become conscious even in dream time, because I believe that anything can happen to you in dream time, and you're never going to know it. You're never going to understand. And then the next day, you have a lot of different feelings and emotions and a lot of heaviness that you're pulling through your day, and you don't know where it came from. And so, it's important to work on those planes of reality. But that's a very interesting dream, and I think a lot of people, have the ability to access that information. Now, are we living in multiple realities? Yes. And I bring this concept from my personal perspective of being a part of the hybridization program. And I'm going to explain why. Because what I have seen, that we are basically, over centuries and centuries, since the beginning of the origin of our races here on this planet, have been very heavily genetically altered. Okay, and with that, we are a combination of many different genetic changes that have been done to our DNA to result in what we are today as humans. Now, because of that, because DNA is information, any kind of alterations and any kind of deductions or subtractions of our genetic matter in any time, any part of the timeline, to create another being, like hybrids, for example, or an extension of yourself, using that information is linking you energetically to whatever the end product is. So, for example, the hybrid child that is being created, we are connected with those beings. And so, in a sense, at this point, we are all one. We all know that we're all one. But when I say we're all one from this biological, genetic make, we're actually literally pieces of each other are within each other. We are all fractals of each other, and even more things that are not in this physical plane. And within this physical dimension, the human has a lot of aspects of its DNA disabled, so it doesn't have the ability to access those many different dimensions that it could have access to. The information is there, it's just inaccessible to us because of, let's say, the structure of reality that we are clinging to, that we're holding on to. So in a way, we are living multiple realities, and we have access. We have the ability to access that information if we reach that level of consciousness, if we work on that level to access the different aspects of ourselves. And in the work that I do, which is DNA reprogramming, my main focus is to reintegrate all of those fractals of the soul, little by little, picking up those pieces, cleaning up like a custodian, all of those fractals that are dispersed within our multiverses that we now live in. And, that's a huge work to be done, but as multidimensional beings, that's really something that we need to become aware of, that is part of our work.
We only have about 5.5 minutes here before we got to go to our first break of the night, and we'll stick with dimensions on this one. Do you think that some of these missing people who just disappear out of the blue are actually walking into a different dimension and they may not even know it?
Yeah, that's very possible on some level. I mean, whether they know it consciously, what they may not know is the difference between one dimension and another, okay? They might not be aware that they are in another dimension, because when a physical organism comes out of alignment with one dimension to come into another dimension, it immerses itself and aligns itself with its new environment. And so sometimes that's why aspects of the old dimension are disabled, so it doesn't have the ability to reconnect with that. So I'll give you an example. When we are healing, we are cleaning up trauma. Let's say somebody is very traumatized from pain and hurt, and, they have this constant anguish in them. So when you go through a healing process, you heal that, you restore that, you eliminate that from the body. And then this person has a different way of thinking. They also are holding a different vibration. They cannot go back to that same previous state emotionally, so that's how we move through dimensions. We are changing the make of an organism entirely. There's also many different ways of when we experience abductions, we're taken in and out of spaces, like, for example, even in my own experiences of being taken on board a ship, and they will go through the trouble of wiping your memory so you don't remember what you just experienced, and then they restore you back into your, dimensional reality. So there's many different ways of accessing and disabling that information, but the consciousness of the organism has to be aware of that. It has to be very aware of what's occurring there. And that's something that can be trained. I think that's something that we can train ourselves in.
Could people who physically go into or walk into a different dimension, could they come back? Because for so many of these people who go missing, and granted probably the majority of them are of some sort of foul play, unfortunately, but let's say for those who maybe go into a different dimension, are they able or do they have the ability to get back? And do we even know how to track them to where they are now?
Well, it's a complex topic because there's so many levels of this that you can look at. For example, ghosts are interdimensional beings. Now, their physical body is gone, but their essence, or a fractal of their essence, is still here, lingering in between dimensions. So it looks like they haven't left, right? They left the physical realm and they came back to the same, reality, but they are stuck in between dimensions. Now, if you're talking about like time travel, stuff like that, that's a different thing, and that's when we are moving in and out of dimensions. Can you come back? Yes, you can come back. It's kind of a big topic because one thing is we're talking about the physical body coming in and out of dimensions, and as I mentioned to you before, if the entire organism is shifting to align with its new environment, there has to be changes and shifts done to that organism for it to go back to the other organism. Now, within physics, there's many laws and rules of how and when that can occur. But when we talk about, for example, the soul, which is pure consciousness, for example, a lot of times it goes up to many different higher dimensions of reality, and from there also has the ability of coming back into this lower dimensional reality. So there's many different ways that reality can be placed. It can be played out through many different ways. I guess the simple answer is to say yes, it can. Ultimately, it can. but it requires different changes, different circumstances would allow for that.
It always makes me curious on whether or not they can, because I don't think that a lot of these people have actually died or been abducted by aliens or anything like that, or ran into foul play. I think there are some who just literally disappear. And it's like they've walked into a portal or dimension. And I'm almost convinced of that.
Interesting. Absolutely. I mean, we're in an interdimensional reality, and it could very well be that they can leave this dimension and go into another and live out their lives in that dimension. But again, that person would have to know how to come back to the dimension, and that's where things get sticky, right? We're talking about physics, time, space, and their material construct. And I think that takes a very specific understanding of reality to be able to come back in from dimensions. Hopefully, I mean, nothing dies, right? This energy never disappears. It just reallocates. And it just reallocates with different definitions. So, yeah.
Well, on that note, we're going to get you to hold on, because we are going to escape here into a different radio dimension. We're going to go to commercial break. Notice that play on words there? That was pretty punny right there. That was bad. That was bad.
Very.
Yeah, very, very bad. It was bad, Dave. Bad host right there. Geraldine Orozco is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She comes in the first Tuesday of every month with The Spiritual You. Geraldine is based out of San Francisco, and BayAreaMeditation.com is her website. So I highly suggest you check it on out. We got one more hour with Geraldine, and we're going to make it a good one. We're getting into ascension here. What must we do to ascend as human beings? You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
There's news, and there's The Encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR, The Encounter. Come give us a read.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, Lorian Fenton will be here to discuss UFOs, MUFON, and her coming appearance at the Caribou Paracon. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hello to everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. And don't forget, you can check out our archives for free at our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Hey, Mike McNeil, where's the password, man? You're late on the password. Now I got to make up a password because Bill Cardwell's taking the week off here. He's got some family coming into town. So Bill Cardwell's taking a break here. Mike McNeil is supposed to set the password for tonight, but I got to make one up. What should we call it? Let's call it Team Stump. Team Stump is your password for tonight, as Mike or Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bubblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Don't forget, you can get your tickets for the first annual Caribou Paracon, presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers, September 28th through 30th. Go to questers.ca. That's questers.ca. Click on the fall conference. Get your tickets right now. The first Tuesday of every month, we bring in Geraldine Orozco from Bay Area Meditation down in San Francisco, California, for a little show we like to do called The Spiritual You. Tonight, we are talking about dimensions in the first hour. In hour number 2 here, we're going to get into ascension. What does it mean? What does it do? Geraldine's website is bayareameditation.com. If you want to check it out, Geraldine, welcome back.
Hey.
Hey.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So we're going to talk about ascension now.
We will, but I want to get to some audience questions first, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. I'd love that.
Mike on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio is asking, Geraldine, what is the most unusual experience you've ever experienced with an interdimensional being, aliens, or spirits?
Oh, boy. How much time do we have on this show?
Oh, we have another hour.
God.
We have another hour.
Okay, well, let me see. I mean, the thing is this, what is his name? What's his caller's
Mike.
name? Mike, awesome. Thank you so much for that question. I have had many, many experiences, actually. I'm a lifelong abductee, so I have had experiences since childhood. And for me, the most vivid ones are the ones that occurred over the past 2 years, and the ones that occurred in 2013. That very main abduction that I had that really woke everything up for me. And that was when I was taken on a ship, and I was introduced to my hybrid children by very tall grays. And so that is an experience that is very interesting, because that was the first time that I experienced coming in consciously into this interdimensional reality, where I'm telling you, it is just realer than real life to see these beings and to experience them on a whole different level, and experience how they can, shift and move time and space. Now, more recently, as I was saying a little bit earlier about Colorado, I've had other experiences that were more recent interdimensionally, and during sleep time, being taken and introduced into different space, different places. And that was very interesting as well.
All right, let's get to another question. This one comes from New Joe. He is asking, my white witch friend does automatic drawing, and with increasing frequency, the drawings are showing a humanoid figure in them, as if it were peering out of the drawing from inside. What is your opinion of something like this, Geraldine?
That's interesting. When we start doing automatic writing, we are channeling some information that comes in through us. So depending on what filters are being utilized to channel that, whatever is being channeled, will produce with whatever the information comes in. Now, I am of the thought that we have to be very careful with what we are channeling and mindful of what we are allowing to speak through us, because sometimes not everything that, is coded in sparkles and light is light and sparkles. Sometimes it's just appearing to be that way. So when we look at these kinds of channelings, we have to be using our clearing the body and the mind so that we can have a really clear vessel to be able to utilize our intuition to identify whether these are high vibrational information or low vibrational information. Sometimes when things manifest themselves like this on a physical form, they could be something that is more lower vibrational, but you really have to feel it out. You really have to use your intuition to see. And really, that is going to come in through the channeler, in the channeler state. Now, you mentioned that she is a white witch. I would imagine she's working with white light and white energy. I don't know what kind of white witch she is per se, or what kind of modality of healing that she utilizes. But everything would have to depend on her vibration and her intention for what she's pulling in. And based on that, you can kind of understand what the information is about. And it's important to look at that. Whatever we're pulling in, whatever drawings we're pulling in, whatever it's manifesting, what it's showing us, that we can utilize that information to decipher if it's something that benefits us, or is it a manifestation of something, of an entity that we're pulling in, or something like that. We have to be very aware of those things. So use your intuition, take a look at that, clear your body and mind, reset, and then identify what's coming in, so that you have to be able to have that dialogue, with what's coming in, especially when you're channeling.
Follow up on your comment there. BTO is asking, external channeling or inner soul channeling?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for an individual to be able to identify the difference between external channeling and inner channeling, there really has to be a very clear vessel. Like, you have to purify the body and the mind, because, with our so many things going on affecting our vibrational frequency and our perception of things, it's very easy to confuse or mix up those things. So how do we know if we're channeling our inner guidance and our higher self? We have to clean that up to connect to our higher self, so that we know that that is a pure form of who we are. And in order to do that, we have to get to know ourselves very well on a very deep level. We have to understand what makes us tick, what makes us move, what makes our emotions move, so that we can always be aware and conscious of the many dimensions of our personality, so that we understand all aspects of what we are. That way, when we start to channel things or pick up things that are not in resonance with who we are, based on our, baseline of who we are, we can decipher that those things are not ours. And even if they come in with high vibrational information, we really must be aware of where it's coming from. Because something that I have seen in a lot of the work that I'm doing is that people will channel things, and even though it sounds like roses and the most amazing message in the world, sometimes they end up in directions that you're like, wait a minute, how did it end up over there? Or, how did they end up coming to that conclusion from this information? So clear the vessel, okay? Clarify the body and the mind, connect to source, connect to yourself. You are a reflection of source. So the more that you work on your inner strengthening of your connection to source, your messages should, in my belief, come through your higher self only. We should never depend on entities or channeling any kind of other beings. Really, our information has to come from us, and that's the gifts that we have. We have to honor that information.
Follow up from BTO. He is saying, what do you mean by all one, or fractals of each other? Are you referring to individual, collective, or unity oneness? And is there a difference between ascension and inscension?
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about fractals, I'm talking about the concept that understanding the fabric of the universe, the matrix universe, as an organism inside of a larger organism, we are each made up of that basic fabric, and the basic fabric is pure consciousness. That pure consciousness is what we believe, we can define it as God or the source, okay? And so all of us that are here, these humans that are conscious here on this planet, are a fractal, an aspect of this pure consciousness. And what happens to a soul when it comes to the three-dimensional reality, it experiences the fractalization of that soul through experiences of life, of trauma, of pain that are made within this physical reality to destruct as much as possible, to confuse and to, fracture this source essence throughout our lives. So even within the mere 100 years that we have as a human being on this lifetime, we come in whole as children. We are pure integrated consciousness. And through the experiences of life, of birth, of everything, the soul is experiencing different kind of trauma that causes fractalization. So all of our experiences are a result, creating opportunities for these fractals to exist. Now, when a soul experiences a very deep trauma, let's say sexual abuse or something that breaks the soul into different fractals, which is what are the Kabbalistic programming and control system in this matrix that we are in, they utilize all of these techniques to create and break the soul on many different levels in our structure of reality. So all of us that are living through that in our lifetime, are feeling that. So when we heal, and when I talk about becoming one and unifying the fractals of that soul, I'm talking about from a microcosmic perspective within ourselves, and that's working interdimensionally with our past, cleaning up, old trauma, and then expanding that onto our network. And the network is our family, our friends, everything that makes up our ancestral lineage, basically. And it's a little more complex than that, but I'm simplifying it.
We'll give BTO the hat trick of questions here. He is asking then, so what is source to you? And are people really part of someone else, or are we our own creator self?
Right, and so really quickly, let me finish this thought that as a whole in that network that I'm referring to, those are all fractals. Each one of those souls are a fractal of source. Source is what we can define as pure consciousness. It is just pure consciousness. It is the fabric of what this entire matrix universe and creation is made out of. So, and what was the last question that he asked?
What is your definition of source? And are people really part of someone else, or are we our own creator self?
Well, within your organism of the human that you are, okay, BT, let's say BT is an organism. He is pure, what's his name?
BTO. We don't know. We don't know his real name. He's a New York Mets fan, so he's a little shy about giving out his real name.
Nice. Okay, well, BTO, wonderful. So let's consider yourself an organism for a moment. And so you are a fractal of source, of pure consciousness. And so you are a piece of a larger whole, which first is defined by your network and your ancestral lineage. And then we are all one whole. We are all a fractal of source because we are all pure consciousness. Pieces of that source and pure consciousness, basically.
Very interesting indeed. Let's get to Jade's question. She is asking, Geraldine, why do you think you're experiencing more interdimensional experiences lately?
The interdimensional experiences that I am experiencing now, I've gone through a couple ups and downs over the past 6 months, and I am going to talk about this on my YouTube channel a little bit more because I do want to get into that. But the experiences that I've had are a couple things. Because of my own work on myself, my own ascension, I am awakening up different aspects of myself that are a little bit more accessible to different dimensions, different aspects of myself, a little bit deeper aspects of myself. And so the ones that I have been able to access now, I believe, and usually during dream time, it's like I can never sleep. I'm doing healings during the daytime in my sessions, and then when I go to sleep, I'm still doing healings. And it's funny because during dream time, I am, accessing different people and working with them. And it's very conscious. Like, I know that it's a dream. I know that I'm working with them. I know what's occurring and what's happening and how it's affecting. That's one experience. Another experience that I have experienced was a military laboratory experience, and it's the first time that I'm talking about this public, actually, because I was a little, afraid to kind of get into that, to talk about it public. But, that is something that has occurred recently, and it was a very interesting experience, and I believe that the reason for that is, again, as a participant of the hybridization program, to take genetic information, and ultimately, the purpose of them doing that is to create alternate universes, parallel universes with aspects of ourselves. So we can talk about that topic another day because it's a very big one. But there's many different reasons for this kind of contact that I'm having. And it happens on high levels and it happens on low levels based on my soul contract. I don't define either one as good and bad. I just think that they are necessary for my ascension and my work, and I'm, not afraid of either. Just happy to be doing what I need to be doing. That's it.
Catherine is asking, Geraldine, is it possible that people's spirit energy is more like the design of a tree in winter, both branches and roots, and that energy branches out to other dimensions while your other energies keep you rooted for your strength, life, like the tree?
Yes, that's a lovely analogy that could definitely be. The only thing is that we as humans, we always want to define things as a solid. And in reality, what we truly are is anything but a solid. And I think that it's a good analogy to help us understand the concept of being connected to many different things at once while we are here. But our consciousness and our soul is so vast and expansive, Catherine, that we have the ability to move interdimensionally freely. And that is ultimately the purpose of the human soul, of you and I here on this planet, is to work through and experience all aspects of reality. So maybe if we can try to visualize this interdimensional contact as more of a fluid substance, that we are like bubbles of water, and as they merge and they hit each other, as they're moving through the space and time of reality, we are merging, and when we merge, we take on a little bit of one aspect and it takes on a little bit of us. And we, little by little, pick up little bits and pieces of different realities around us. So I love the concept, but really I would love more people to consider this as something more fluid, because that's really what is going to help us move beyond the physical limitation of our reality.
Let's get to another question. This one from, let's see, Eric with a K. You met Eric at the UFO Con. Big, tall guy, great hair.
Yeah.
Great hair.
Yeah, great hair. Hey, Eric, great to see you here.
He is asking if you've ever looked into Sasquatch as a healer.
Oh, beautiful. You know what? I have a very good friend of mine that I met, and I know I met her for a reason, that manages and talks about Sasquatch. And I believe that Sasquatch are very beautiful, powerful beings here on our planet. I haven't looked into their healing abilities myself personally, because I've been busy with, let's say, other races at the moment. But I am very aware of their healing abilities and the powers and connections that they have to this Mother Earth and interdimensionally here. And I know that they are helping. They are helping balance out all of the atrocities and imbalance in our physical reality here, in our natural reality, with all of the organisms helping us live in more balance. Other than that, I really can't say that I know more about them enough to, give them the credit that they deserve. So, but in regards to healing, I have heard so many incredible stories of them healing children, healing people that are ill, and it really looks like these interdimensional beings are here to help and to serve us on some level, and not something that we should fear in any way. As we shouldn't fear anything really. So, yes, thanks for the question.
We'll get to one more question here before we're going to get into ascension for the rest of the night. And this one comes from New Joe, who is asking, Geraldine, would you consider a fractal an archetypical aggregate?
Well, you can say that, but really, I think a fractal is inclusive of everything that its source originates from. So it is inclusive of everything. So, like I'm mentioning, as fractals, we are our own individual creators and holding on to all of that information and essence of what our source consists of, basically.
Very cool. We're going to move on here to ascension because you wanted to get into this as well. For people who may not know what ascension means, how about you give us a Coles Notes version of the definition?
Definition of ascension. Yes, let's talk about that. So, ascension, we tend to believe that it's something that's moving up, okay? And it is something that's moving up, but when we are talking about ascension, we have to understand that there's many different parts to it in terms of our perception of what it means and how it involves us, okay? As multidimensional beings, in a reality that is non-stagnant, it's constantly moving. Everything is ascending. Everything is moving and changing vibrationally as we are ascending here in our whole reality. The entire construct of this universe as a whole is moving just like all of the organisms and parts of it, like the different planets, the galaxies, our humans down to the cellular level. Everything is moving in relationship to its environment. And so what I would like to bring as a new way of looking at ascension is that consider it more of movement and consciousness becoming aware of itself. And through the concept of consciousness becoming aware of itself, we are accessing many aspects of experiences, many experiences. And so it's the concept of things being right and wrong or limiting those perceptions is not something that we want to hold on to when we talk about ascension. We really need to understand it as just pure experience and experiencing all of the different aspects of existence, from life to death. So when we talk about ascension, I would like people to start visualizing the concept of our existence. Because I think that, the concept of ascension has become a very popular term that people are using in the spiritual community. And oftentimes, I think it gets lost in a lot of different kinds of definitions and ideologies that sometimes pull us away from the actual purpose of ascension. And, of course, this is my personal perspective, that everything that is moving in this entire universe, okay, all of the galaxies, all of the planets, are part of something that what we call as a matrix universe, okay? And if you visualize this matrix universe as one giant round substance, an organism, beyond that is another organism that surrounds and creates an environment for this organism. And beyond that is yet another organism. So everything, is I guess, almost like aspects of itself through different definitions and different architectural structures, different structures of physics that make up those different levels of reality. But the one that we're in now takes us down to our level of the human level, which is the three-dimensional reality. So everything that we're experiencing is communicating with the whole of this entire organism and whatever it may be beyond that, which we have no idea. We have no idea what is beyond that. And we only have our own physics, our own mathematics, our own science to help us comprehend our tiny little world that we live in, really. But beyond that, there are many different levels of reality and existence. Now, our organism is traveling in a way, in many different ways in the existence of reality. We talked about dimensions, and dimensions we talked about shaping and defining time and space. So in that same concept and thought, ascension is working on different levels, but always moving. This entire organism that we live on is moving through a spiral, like a spiral type of a form that is constantly moving through rings of reality, okay? Rings of different dimensions, of different information. And every one of those rings is a certain dimension. Now, when we talk about the dimension and the rings, it is defined by its basic architectural structure. And what I have seen is that literally within our reality, the sequence of the Fibonacci is kind of like the basic structure architecturally of the universe that we live in. So within the time and space that we are existing in now, there are 13 rings to this ascension that we are currently in. Let's say 13 rings of a spiral. And it's kind of like the shape of the cells that make up our matrix universe. You can think of it like that. Think of it like as an organism, okay? And so the shape of our cells here is 13. And it is defining that is going to be the number of dimensions in which we are currently existing in. So as we are moving through those rings, other organisms beyond our immediate reality are also moving on other dimensional realities with different shape of cells. Those different shape of cells are going to be the next level up, okay? And from what I've seen, the sequence is similar to what the Fibonacci represents. And it is that way for us because we are infinite consciousness. That's what we can understand that reality as. It's infinite consciousness. So anything with infinity that is constantly never ending, it's infinite. That is the mathematical sequence that we can comprehend how that operates. So when we are moving through this cycle of ascension through the 13th dimensional realities or levels, different levels, we are also talking about different frequencies. Now, on another dimension of reality, we are also moving on two other trajectories. One of which is when we look at our organism here, the matrix universe, it is functioning on a cycle of an infinity circle. And each point of that infinity circle is going to be one dimension to another dimension. And if you zoom out, these infinity sequences almost look like a DNA strand that is coiled, like the coil of a DNA strand. And every single one of those 4 coils is one dimension. So as we are moving from one dimension to another, the frequency is changing on that scale as well. At the same time as moving on that dimension, we are moving on another linear plane. And the linear plane almost looks like a cross. And that cross is going to define the direction in which and the time and space that this entire organism is operating on. So it's kind of just like drawing out what the universe and what this entire ascension construct looks like. Because even though that's a kind of complex picture, what I want to define by that and allow you to see for a moment is that everything is movement. And ascension is a natural part of our organism and our existence. So a lot of us that are struggling, if we take it back to home, with our ascension and with healing and with everything, we have to, we understand that as an organism, it is a natural part of who we are. Now, what makes that that journey difficult is the fact that we are living in a matrix universe in which the structure of this reality is, in a way, finite. It's made of the fabric of infinity, but it's finite in a sense where our physical bodies are limited here to 100 years in a physical matrix reality, that we are living out lives and experiences in which afford us the opportunity to experience reality. And they allow us to experience emotions, interactions, truths, untruths, all kinds of things that are aspects of consciousness. Okay, so we cannot define things as good and bad when we're talking about ascension. And that's one thing that when we are ascending, when we are working on our consciousness, we have to pull away from as soon as possible. Because ultimately, because if you understand this entire construct, the ultimate truth is going to be the integration of all duality, right? Because pure consciousness is not separated in any way. It's not broken up. It is a whole. It is pure consciousness that integrates all things. It encompasses everything. So the levels of ascension based on frequency will depend on information that this organism as a human is being put into. So any experience that they have and whatnot will define its vibrational frequency. And when we talk about ascending from fourth and fifth, let's say right now we are in that fourth and fifth transition, when we enter the middle point, that's when things start to speed up really quickly. That's when the frequent vibration of of our existence is at its highest point. And that's the point that we're in here, in this particular time and space that we're in. And it's not to say that it's just like we're going to like step over one thick painted line on the ground and then we're going to end up on another dimension just like that. These dimensions merge with each other. And, you know, it's kind of like this, like fog that kind of comes into a space, and it is overlapping different aspects into the reality that it's resonating with. So when we're ascending, many aspects of ourselves may already be in the fifth dimension, but then there are other aspects of ourselves that are not. Okay? So that's why we have to integrate as soon as possible many different aspects, because wherever the larger part of your organism is the part that it's going to be, you know, pulling your reality. So as we are ascending and as we are moving through these dimensions, we have to become very proactive in this particular time to align ourselves with the new information of this reality that we live in, which is, let's say, the definition of fifth dimension. Let's say that is the new construct of the reality. So we have to align ourselves with all of the things that needs for us to survive in.
Excuse me, I had to hold back a sneeze there for a quick second. When it comes to the soul and ascending into a higher dimension or higher frequency, how do you get the soul to connect to that higher vibration?
Wonderful question. So, and like I was just mentioning, you know, we are, part of ourselves is already in fifth dimension, and it all has to do with frequency. Frequency has to do with information, and that information is basically what makes up who you are. So if your soul is tied down with a lot of trauma that it's holding on from your life, the experiences that you've had in this life, you are holding on to heavy vibration, because if you would look at yourself under a different light, let's say you put on these glasses where you can see your multidimensional body, you are now going to see different manifestations of information in your body. And they're going to manifest themselves through, depending on the wavelength of that information. So if the wavelength of your information is based, there's a lot of fear there, you know, we can see there's a chart on that frequency. So it's let's say it shows us a long, slow, very wide range frequency. You know, that is manifesting on a physical level as a heavier substance. So we can't move to the next dimension if we keep having this substance within the body, right? Because it's not resonating with that new dimension. So we need to lighten up the load. That's why a lot of the spiritual community talk about coming into your light body. But what does that mean? The light body is just talking about light is bright, like let's say white light is bright, and the frequency of white light is a much faster moving, higher vibrational frequency. So in order for your soul to be able to align itself with those higher frequencies, you need to unload all of those programs and all of that heaviness that you're holding on to, okay? And that is referring to trauma. It's referring to, programs that are holding you behind, that are not allowing you to access the embodiment of higher vibrations. What are higher vibrations? Let's say joy, love, expansiveness, and ultimately love. Love is the highest vibration in our physical reality. So when we start to heal the body, in which we can embody this pure, unconditional love, we are now operating at a higher level. But you see, it's not a matter of like walking around and saying, oh, I love everything and I love myself and everything is wonderful. Our minds are very complex, and there are many departments to our life, to our mind, as we were talking about earlier. So we need to be able to clean up from all aspects of ourselves, from all the dimensions that make up who we are, this information. And that requires work. It requires us to sit down and look within and figure out where we have those blockages and clear them out. And through that work, we are able to move the soul, move the entire organism of yourself into a higher dimension, because now you've done the work, you're clearing up. And I can completely tell you from personal experience, I have experienced doing that work on myself. And yes, it's not easy. We go through a lot of painful realizations. We go through our reality falling apart and having to find your way through new ways of belief and new ways of looking at things. But, that's what we're here for. We have to be able to perceive. And ultimately, if you look at yourself as pure consciousness, your pure consciousness, that's all you're here for. You're here to experience, to learn. And it's through all of these experiences that you're living through and living out that you are experiencing all aspects of reality.
I have to laugh at this snarky question from Marcus at Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. He says, Geraldine, would I be able to achieve ascension if I mainly move in one dimension from the sofa to the fridge?
It depends. Are you doing it like unconditionally loving, or are you angry when you're going down that way?
I think he's doing it for the love of his belly. But that's just me.
I don't know. That's a complicated love right there,
I know.
So we can talk about that. Just give me a call. We can discuss it. We can get into that, and I can answer that question.
Making me eat yogurt and drink water tonight. That's what you're doing. You're a sinful person, Geraldine. Sinful person.
Oh my God.
Back to the ascension, though. What does happen when we connect to the soul? Is it some kind of unity consciousness that we create?
Well, what do you mean connect to the soul? Which soul are you talking about?
Well, let's go. Your own? Yeah, like let's say my own conscious field of energy. Okay, that I have. Each person has one, correct?
Yeah, because we are our soul, so we are already embodying the soul. There's no separation between us and our soul. But if you mean, becoming more conscious and aware of our entire, electromagnetic field and everything and all our dimensions, then yes, what happens is that you become more aware. And so you have access to looking at all of the different parts of yourself and how they manifest themselves in either stagnant energy or, blockages. So anytime we start to see our life not flowing and not moving in the direction of success and joy and happiness, we can start looking at where we are pulling ourselves back. And so how do we define that is by the experiences that we have and what are holding us back from experiencing a more, a broader perspective of reality. Because what happens is that we shorten our view of reality. We start to close in on things, and then we are only looking at things from one perspective. And a lot of times that happens because of fear-based programs, that we're afraid of looking outside of that very tiny little minimal perspective. So we need to be able to expand our perspective. And when we do, we can see many different angles of something. Okay, as multidimensional beings, we have to look at different angles. So when we connect to our higher self, we are working to train our body so that we are heightening our intuition. We are tapping into the higher levels of our body, training the body. We have to learn how to train our bodies. We need to access the user manual for this vessel that we call a human body, because there is one. And we just need to access that information so we can start learning how to use our chakras, how they help us navigate, how do we interact with them in our lives. We really need to become conscious of how to use this body. And when you do, you're going to have opening a dialogue with yourself, and all of these blockages that are in your life are going to become clear to you. And that's going to allow you the opportunity to clean it up, to fix it, to heal it, whatever it is you need to do to start clearing out those things, allowing you to connect to source, allowing you to open that embodiment of your higher self. Because the higher self, obviously it's called a higher self because it's at a higher frequency, is not in this physical dimension because we're too busy externalizing our perception, and our energetic field is entangled in this physical realm. So the majority of us are just dragging around all kinds of heavy information from our everyday lives and not putting enough time to connect to our higher self. And so our intuition's off. I mean, we never have a clear guidance system. We're confused, we're lost, we're sick. So that's what we want to do.
So how do we realign our souls to get it all back into working order the way it's supposed to work?
Well, first of all, you have to understand what your body is made out of. So as multidimensional beings, understand that you have a chakra system, and the chakra system consists of information that is organizing everything that you are since the beginning of your essence. And all of the information that your chakras are holding are creating filters for how you are going to see reality. So if you just understand that right there, it should raise a lot of questions, like what are my perceptions? Where are they coming from? How do I have this? And how is it affecting my everyday life? Because we're talking about everyday life, like you getting up, going to work, you making choices, you getting married, you having children, you raising your children. You are affecting every aspect of your life. So it's important to have this awareness. And from that perspective, when you ask those questions, you're going to see where there are imbalances. And anywhere that there are imbalances within the perception of positive and negative things, that's when you can start working on them. So if your perception of going out on a date is let's say it's altered because you've come from the perception of fear, then you've created a blockage with yourself and a program that now anytime that you need to interact with people, you are, very cautious. So that's a really simple explanation. But just to let you have an understanding of how it affects our choices and how our perception is skewed with the imbalance of our perception. How do we bring it into alignment is by identifying the imbalances and by rebalancing them. And you're rebalancing them by, again, broadening your perspective of those things, healing the fears or the imbalance that is within perception, broadening your understanding of, the truth of those things. Because a lot of us were coming from only our own experiences. So right there, you can see that that's not the whole truth. That's only a perception, a experience. So we have to go through the whole realm of understanding different perspectives so that we can broaden who we are. And from there, work on realigning our system. Now, for the quick answer, I've created something called GPAC. grounding, protecting, aligning, and creating. And what that is helping you train the body and how to realign yourself. It's just daily, regular, energetic hygiene that we should all be conscious of. We should all own our space, right? We should all be conscious of what we allow in our space and what we don't. That's just basics. We should be grounded. Grounded means that you are, aware of your surroundings. You are in your body instead of floating around or on your cell phone without paying attention to what's around you. And you should be aligned, meaning that always coming from a balanced perspective instead of coming from an imbalanced perspective. And when I talk about creation, I'm talking about manifesting, having intention for your life, clarity. So those are the basics, I believe, of the human and what he needs in order to navigate any day of his life.
How does one do that, though? And I'm saying on more of a human level comparatively to the spiritual world, because life is so busy and we don't have time in our own minds.
Mm-hmm. So I can expand on this concept of grounding, protecting, aligning, and creating. I mean, all that is really just becoming aware of yourself and where you are and what you're doing. That's all you're doing. It's very simple. And obviously you're going to be aware. You have to try to be aware, consciously aware of your surroundings. And we're going to bring it down to the very basic of, spirituality or the spiritual community of being in the present moment, okay? So if you want to narrow it down and simplify it as much as possible for the busy person that doesn't have time, be in the present moment. Like that doesn't affect your time. As a matter of fact, it will enhance your experiences, everything that you're doing. When we're in the present moment, we are aware of ourselves in our environment and how we are interacting with our environment. And that's absolutely imperative to our health, to our, our understanding of who we are, to our success, to our creation and manifestation in life. We have to be aware. So if I would narrow it down to one simple step that you can take to start today is be in the present moment.
But you do understand, and I know we've talked about this many a time when you've been on this show, when people are more concerned about how they're going to put food on their table for their family, or with gas prices going up to exorbitant rates, how they're even going to fill their car in order to get to work, there's a lot of personal stress that comes in between looking for your higher self.
Well, here's the thing. If you are someone that's struggling to put food on the table, you are the person that more than anyone should be focused on being in the present moment. Because if you are in survival mode and you have a lot of problems in your life, don't you want to get out of that? Don't you want to
I think everybody does. I think everybody does.
Exactly. And because of that, we are even more motivated to help ourselves being aware of what we're doing, because, what's the point? I see a lot of people that are struggling to survive. And a lot of times, they're putting their energy in things that really don't help them. They really don't help them on the bigger picture. And it's a product of our environment. It's a product of our society, that we are all struggling for survival. Okay, that's the belief that we have all taken on as a society. Now, if we would all be conscious and aware beings, maybe we would drop the whole concept of running after money and become a community and start creating, a nucleus of support system for each other. But we're not there yet. We're still in the struggle, concept. So within that struggle concept, the very least that you can do for yourself is, when you are in your body, when you are conscious of yourself and what you're doing, then it's going to help you make better choices in your work. And when you make better choices in your work, it's going to provide you new opportunities. When you have new opportunities, you're going to be able to expand yourself and hopefully tap into that more of an abundance mindset. And with that positivity and coming into a state of flow instead of resistance to everything that you're experiencing, you are going to be able to, access this joy within you, because now you're not in resistance to your life. You're no longer in survival mode. You are flowing with the experiences of life, and that's a matter of changing your perception. So whether you're busy or not, we are in control of our mind and our emotions, and that is a priority that we all, as an organism, collectively have to focus on right now. I mean, the time is so now, You see, and it just really depends on your priorities, because if your priorities are feeding in the system that is causing so much destruction in the organism of a human and our families and our children, then we're going to continue. We're going to continue being survival slaves and slaves to our emotions and our environment. But if we're tired of that and we're ready to move on to a more healthier life, if that's your priority, then you're going to focus on tools that are going to pull you away from there. So it's just a matter of understanding, doing the research, learning. And if you don't have time to learn and understand, just look at how you feel. Do you want to keep feeling crappy and angry and mad and stressed out, or do you want to change that? So you got to assess your priorities.
Geraldine, we got about 35, 40 seconds left with you tonight, and I want to say thank you again for coming on The Spiritual You, as you do the first Tuesday of every month. Your next date here will be on Tuesday, October 2nd, and I'm very much looking forward to you coming back on. Let everybody know, if you don't mind, where they can get a hold of you.
If you would like to get a DNA reprogramming with me or learn more about how to, ascend in any way, please contact me at bayareameditation.com. And we just opened a studio in downtown San Francisco for you to come in to drop-in sessions if you are here in San Francisco, and I will also be doing live streams from there that you can log into. I work internationally through Skype, and you can reach me through my website. You can also reach me at GeraldineOrozco.com to learn about my contact. If you are a hybrid mother or a contactee, you need support, you need to understand what's happening to you, reach out and talk to me. I am definitely happy to help in any way that I can. Ask me your questions on ascension and spirituality. And I thank all of you souls that tuned in tonight to learn a little something and to work on your ascension. I have the utmost respect and love for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Dave.
And thank you, Geraldine. Coming up in the next half hour, we got Tessa Nicole Thomas from The Weekend Show. Then at the bottom of the hour, Everett Themer's back with The Encounter. More Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website, including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Lorian Fenton will rejoin us. We're going to talk UFOs, MUFON, and she's coming up here to speak at the Caribou Paracon. We're going to get into that as well. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and on Deep Talk Radio. Geez, we got people from like Romania, Italy, New Zealand, Russia, the UK, Korea again tonight. Never mind North America. That's just awesome. Thank you so much for listening in on Deep Talk Radio on Spaced Out Radio here. Thank you. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Mike McNeil set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He's a little late on it, so we're going to actually go with it. Normally I would use the first hour password, which was Team Stump, but we're going to go with Piotilomania. Piotilomania is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill or Mike set the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Don't forget, you can also get your tickets for the first annual Caribou Paracon, presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. We get it going in just a couple weeks' time, September 28th through 30th. Go to questers.ca. That's questers.ca. Click on the fall conference. You'll see our great lineup that we have. I'll be speaking as well, so come on up to beautiful British Columbia. I'm losing my voice here. I am totally losing my voice. Feels like I'm starting to get a cold. It's like, come on. It's September. It's the beginning of September. I never get sick at the beginning of September. Tessa Nicole Thomas from The Weekend Show. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Well, besides having this cough all of a sudden, and like I'm just pounding back the water here.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
like
have some hot tea with lemon and honey in it. That's good for you.
I wish. Except even though I broadcast out of my house, the kitchen is so far away. It's like upstairs. It's like in a different territory. Completely. I have a paranormal question for you from myself to you. And it's very, very intriguing. So you know how I do this tour at our local museum. Very proud of that. Well, a good friend of mine who's a paranormal investigator was up here this past weekend. And you know what? When he was in the rooms, the ghosts were silent. And I actually did a test in 2 different buildings, Tessa. I kicked him out of each building just to see what would happen. And the minute he left, we started getting reaction like anything. His girlfriend even stayed with us.
That's interesting. And like you said, very intriguing. I wonder, perhaps they're not comfortable with them, or I don't know. Maybe they have trust issues.
You've been doing this a long time. This is why I wanted to ask you this. Have you ever heard of a situation where these spirits will refuse to talk to someone, yet they'll talk to everybody else?
Yeah, and it could all have to do with his energy. We've gone some places where it's totally active, and when we get there, we won't get anything. And so it takes us several times going back to, I don't know if it's gain their trust or make them feel more comfortable around us, but perhaps they're intimidated by his energy or something. I don't know. That's odd.
Oh, it was the weirdest thing. I've never seen that before, where you go into an investigation and it is absolutely dead. Absolutely dead. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, no, this is wrong. kick him out, leave his girlfriend in with us with about 8 other people, and poof, all of a sudden all the meters start going off. There's communication going on. It was the strangest thing. And I'm wondering, because this person has investigated my museum a number of times, and I'm wondering if it's because they don't appreciate his approach, or maybe it's the way we have set up the tour with everything, where it's not an official investigation. It's more like, hey, come join us for a conversation. We got a bunch of people here who want to meet you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of two different attitudes.
Yeah, and you said he's a paranormal investigator himself. Like, he's got to have some activity, or I don't think he'd be in the field unless he's one of the debunkers. Is he cordial when he does it? He doesn't try to intimidate or provoke, or what is his?
No,
how does he do it?
He's not a provoker, but he's a very, very stern investigator. All right, like he has no problem challenging spirits. He has no problem taking a punch or a poke or whatever. And I've seen him get punched before. But it doesn't intimidate him. And I just think it's very intriguing that the spirits literally shut down while he was there. And it's funny because we even went upstairs into the barn, and Bazooka Joe was with me. And, you know, upstairs in the barn is where we've had troubles with that one spirit, the one that attacked me and Bazooka Joe. And we got halfway up the stairs, and all of a sudden everything smelled like sulfur.
Oh, wow. That's not a good sign.
And we were like, we're not coming up. We are not coming up tonight. And then everything kind of died down a little bit. And when it died down, we went back upstairs. We gave him a shot of whiskey and his cigarette. And everything was fine. We still didn't bring everybody upstairs because we just didn't want to do that. But I'd never smelled sulfur like that before. That was weird.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Does he do anything like moving spirits on or getting them out of an area?
No, he just wants results.
And another thing that occurred to me, does he do any sort of like protection rituals or anything before he goes in?
Yes, he does. He is very spiritual that way.
Because sometimes when you do certain things, the activity won't come out because it doesn't want to be found and getting rid of. And if you're saying sulfur, to me that sounds demonic. I don't want to say it is a demon because I don't know for sure, but that's generally a sign. And if he had some sort of protection going on with perhaps St. Michael or something else along those lines, might have been intimidating for them, and they don't want to be seen or heard or known that they're there, and they want to put that doubt in that person's head that they are even there. So,
Yeah, I know. It was the strangest thing. I've never experienced that before. I didn't feel scared. I just knew what the problem was. And it was weird. The minute we got rid of Mike, everything kind of calmed down.
Yeah. That's interesting. And how many times has he been up there to investigate?
Oh, 6 or 7, maybe 8 times.
Wow.
So he is
and every
very
time it's the same?
No, it's only been the last 2 times. The last 2 times is when things have started kind of going a little haywire.
Yeah, there's so many different things it could be. You just have to know all the variables.
So what do you do when one of your investigators, let's say, I don't want to say gets out of hand, because I don't think Mike is out of hand. I think he's very, very controlled. But let's just say is having a negative reaction to the spirits that are around.
We try to pick the best person for the job from our core group, because we like for our crew to be educated on many different levels, and sometimes you do have that adverse reaction that you're saying, and so we might have to pull that person off the team just to try to get the best evidence or data or whatever you like to call it on that case and be able to help, the people involved on this side and the next. But yeah, sometimes you do have to pull that person out, and it sucks because a lot of times, they're a really good team member, and like you're saying, he's a really good investigator and really good at what he does, and so it's hard when you have to do that, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to get the best results.
Do you think it's because the spirits are in control or that they are fearful of him? How would that work?
Well, being that he's been there so many times and this is the first time that has happened, perhaps with his experience and things that he's been doing as far as putting himself in these situations and different things that he's using to protect himself in the forefront of the investigation, perhaps he's gained a guardian or two, or I don't know. Unless he's drastically changed something that he's been doing to protect himself, perhaps he's gained a guardian or two because he needs it.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering, and I'm just wondering if they don't like his technique of investigation, or if he's just overly protected, or they just really do not want him around. I mean, this is where it gets a little bit eerie for me because, coming up at our Caribou Paracon, Mike is supposed to be taking everybody on tours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could go bad. I don't know.
Well,
I hope it doesn't work out that way for those and everybody gets the best experience. Hopefully it's just this individual place at the moment, because I'd hate for everybody to have a bum investigation.
Oh, me too. Absolutely, me too. It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be fun. So I think what we're going to do is I talked to him yesterday and before he went on home, and I just said, look, we got to figure something out here, because with the Caribou Paracon coming on up here in the next little bit here, we've got a big-time problem if this is going to be an issue and you're not getting results. We can't have that. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people want to come for an experience, and be damned if they're going to get an experience if the ghosts are tuning you out. I never thought the ghosts would have that ability to tune someone out. Oh, he's here. Let's just get rid of him. We don't want to deal with him, so we're all going to go silent.
Yeah, that's funny.
The other
thing, I
definitely... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Well, I was going to say, I definitely ask him if he is doing something different before the investigation, and see if maybe he shouldn't do that when he's going on these tours for the Paracon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but it made me think, you see all of these television shows where people bring them into their houses or their places of work, and they're telling about all of these haunted experiences that come up. And then all of a sudden these professional ghost hunters arrive with their cameras and all their fancy gear and their funky matching T-shirts. And they get nothing, and they come out and they say, well, you know what? We can't prove whether it's haunted or not because we got nothing. Nothing. Mm-hmm. And now I'm wondering if it's the ghosts who say, we don't want to deal with this guy or this team or that lady. We're just going to go hide off in some room and just sit here and keep quiet because we know those beady little earthlings cannot see us or hear us. So we're just going to say, hell with them, and we're going to do our own thing.
Yeah, and, I've heard about this particular ghost you're talking about, the one you got the sulfur smell from, but there's other ghosts there, but sometimes in an area, one can control the rest of them, and if he's putting that smell out, I think he is feeling threatened, and maybe he's keeping the other ghosts quiet, so they're not able to communicate with him while he's there.
Well, see, the interesting part is that gentleman spirit up in the barn, we have a beautiful EVP from him. And my friend Tara, Bazooka Joe's wife, so Bazookette Joe, she was explaining to her tour guides or her tour that there is no photography of the upper catwalk or going up the catwalk. That area is restricted. And you actually hear a voice say in the background, "Thank you."
Wow.
Like we're respecting his area. So I don't think that this guy is demonic. I think this guy knows his power. I think he knows his ability to make things happen if he needs to. Probably been on that side for a long, long time to figure out his abilities.
Yeah, and that did stop you guys from going up there, so it worked.
Absolutely. That's his area. He doesn't want to be bothered, so why bother him? Why bother him? And I think with that EVP that we got of him saying thank you, I think that really proves that he just wants to be left alone. He doesn't want to be bothered by the tour. And I'm okay with that. But I have a feeling because when I got attacked, Mike and his team were up here, and this dude actually punched Mike and grabbed his arm so much so that Mike had a bruise the size of a thumb on his arm. Like, this guy just doesn't like Mike.
Wow.
And Mike's okay with it. He's very okay with it. But he doesn't like to lose either. And, you know, it's one of those things where I had to tell him, I said, Mike, I said, you got to remember, though, you get to go home. I got to deal with the mess. And I don't want a mess to deal with. And he knows that. He's mature enough to understand that, right?
Yeah, but perhaps it is, like you were saying before, that matter of respect, and maybe the certain person, I don't know, maybe they're feeling like he doesn't have any respect for them in their area. With you guys showing respect to this individual and, you know, leaving offerings and stuff for him, like peace offerings, that kind of puts you guys on a different realm, and, you know, making it to where other people can't take pictures and invade their privacy or somehow, you know, catch their image on camera. I mean, that's a big thing for them, really.
Right. Well, you know what? It's something that I am very, very concerned with. Mike knows my concerns, but I know if anybody can fix it, he can. You know, I know that he can fix that, which is good. But, you know, you mentioned on your team, you have no problem telling people to stay home. If you're going back to an area where an investigator is not liked or not getting any results, you have no problem on getting them to stay home. That's tough for a lot of people, especially when you're dealing with volunteers.
Yeah, and like the people in our core group, they actually pay dues because it costs for, you know, advertisement and gas and, you know, selling these cleansing kits and whatnot. You know, it really actually puts us in the hole doing all this stuff, and we only pay $50 each, so that's the core group, and those are also the people that come to the meeting. But yeah, we did have a situation where we were up at a house, and towards the end of this investigation, one of the team members started to get upset, and she was actually picking on the ghost and not being very respectful, and we actually haven't had her on another hunt since. I think she's been really busy with her dance career and stuff like that, but that's when we really put it in there, like, for you guys to come on these investigations, you need to come to these meetings because we teach you, you know, certain things, and one of those is having respect for the individual, whether it's the homeowner or, you know, the spirit or ghost that is there. Respect is a really big key thing, and I don't like it when people pick on them and throw out insults or threats or whatever like that. I mean, there's really no need for it, and I don't feel like it's very professional, but some people really, really do get results doing that, but I don't like the results that they get. I mean, it never really turns out good.
So how do you cure that attitude in an investigator?
Well, they either follow the rules or they don't come out with us anymore. And that's just the way we have to do it. We're all friends and we feel like family and like a paranormal family. But yeah, if you can't follow the rules and the guidelines of the investigation, we can't have them there. It's got to be highly professional, and yeah, we have guidelines. They're there for a reason. If you don't want to do that, then you can't come on investigations with us. If you want to do your own, I mean, that's fine, and a lot of people do break off and do their own thing, but we're in this to help people on this side and the other, and if we're not getting the results we need, it's not helping us accomplish our goal.
And that I can very much understand. So when you go into an investigation and you are putting your team together, what kind of team do you go for? Do you go for the communication type? Do you go for people who are more oriented towards communication with the spirits? What are you looking for? Because every investigation would be different, would it not?
Yeah, and we actually find that on our investigations, keeping the group very diverse is very effective, because then you have all playing fields covered, and if something pops up that you're not expecting, most likely there's going to be somebody there that knows what it is, because we do all have different backgrounds and different knowledge and different gifts, and so I think it's good to have a diverse group and open-minded people.
Mm-hmm. For sure. We only got a couple minutes left with you. We got about 4.5 minutes here before we got to get to Everett Themer and the encounter along with the thought of the Dave. When it comes to paranormal teams, if you have that one issue out there that you do have somebody who is, say, not able to interact for one way or another with spirit, but they're nice people and they're good friends, how do you tell them that they just can't do it? Or do you just hold them out of that particular investigation?
Well, a lot of times you need like tech people or people recording data as you go, or doing research after an investigation, because a lot of times we like to go in cold, but there's a place for everyone, and just because you're not able to communicate or whatnot doesn't mean you can't be the guy that sets up the cameras or gets the equipment ready or makes sure that all the batteries are ready and everything is where it needs to be, and recording anything that we need them to record as far as writing it down or on a recorder. I like paper. I like to have those paper notes to look at, but yeah, there's a place for everyone, and just because they don't have those gifts, if they're a really good person and they're good-spirited and, they enjoy going, I would say utilize them however you can with being a tech person or whatever your needs as a team may be.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely something that we all got to remember when we are on a ghost hunt. I just want to make sure our patrons get results, because we got people coming from all over Canada and the United States, and we want to make sure that if they choose to go on that ghost tour, that they're going to have a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure of that.
It's very important.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want them to all of a sudden go in there and just say, oh, there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. There's nothing happening here. No, that's not the way we work here. It's not the way we work. There's a reason and a will and a way, my friend. A reason, a will, and a way.
Well, I hope it all, works out. So far, so good, right? Everybody's enjoyed themselves and gotten some really good evidence of life on the other side, and that there is something more after life than just darkness and nothingness. So, yeah, I'm sure it'll continue to go good. You guys will get whatever it is worked out.
Oh, for sure. You enjoying doing the Spaced Out weekends?
Yeah, I love it. It's been awesome, and I've met some really great people, and when we did World's Largest Ghost Hunt on here, I actually had people from India and Ireland and, what was the other place? All over the place, and I had quite a few guests on that show that night, but it was awesome, and meeting awesome people. The psychic we had this last Sunday, she was really cool. I think she's been my favorite so far as her personality and things about her. And yeah, it's been very awesome. And we do have our after parties on Skype and stay up all night talking. The latest one we've done was 6:30. The earliest one we got off of was 6 a.m. this last weekend, and we had a 3-nighter this time. So
you party animals. You party animals.
Fun.
You party animals.
Awesome.
And yet I'm never invited. Here I am, the boss, and I'm never invited.
You were there for the beginning of the Friday one.
Maybe.
But you had to go do something. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, that's because my family was here.
Yeah, holiday weekend.
Yeah, that's true. Tessa Nicole Thomas, thank you so much for coming on, talking a little bit of paranormal with me.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. It's always cool to come on with you and hang out for a little bit.
Of course. Who do you have on this weekend?
This weekend we have Neil Gower, and he's going to be talking about portals of ascension. Let's see. Portal to Ascension. And then we have Psychic Donna Pennick on Sunday.
Wonderful. You have a good time. We'll talk to you on the weekend.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Everett Thiemer coming on up here with The Encounter. We are entering The Encounter right now, as we do each and every night at this time. We bring in news director Everett Thiemer from The Encounter to go over the weird, the strange, and the WTF in the news of the day, because the news is always changing, and we want to bring you the news that may not just get to the front pages of your local newspapers or radio broadcasts or even television shows. So, another great night. Everett Thiemer, welcome back. How you feeling, man?
I'm surviving. It sounds like you're getting a little bit of a cold.
Yeah, it started like an hour ago. Not appreciating it at all.
If it's anything like mine, you're going to be having fun in a few hours.
I'm not looking forward to it. I didn't really think I would have to crack out the Vicks Vapo Rub this early in the year.
But fall is here.
I hear you. It's terrible. Terrible. What do you do?
Just keep moving on.
I know. I'm debating whether or not I want to bring in this story. I'm not sure you have it in your lineup, but everybody's talking about this Nike stuff, burning their Nike shoes, and if you're on one side of the ledger. When did running shoes become political, dude?
I really don't know, and I don't know why. One of the things that I've seen is people finally kind of posting back that if you have a problem with their product, donate it to somebody and don't buy them again. Why destroy, something perfectly good? Especially over, the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. It's tough. It really is. And I can see both sides, but I can also see the NFL's position and the team owners' positions. It's a very tough position.
Well, I believe there was one U.S. university football program today that ended their affiliation with Nike today. And Nike shares dropped something like 3% in the last 24 hours. Whether or not you stand with or kneel with Colin Kaepernick, I mean, the big thing is, I'm not sure if Nike made a very good move, considering, and this is the one thing I want to say on this. Never mind the whole political heat, okay? But I don't think it's fair for any company like a Nike to get involved on a political stance. I really don't. And the reason why is because there are people of all walks of life who are buying your product, and you've now segregated that. And that's not good. I don't see the point in that.
I can understand that. I can see that point.
However, when Nike talks about oppression and having people being treated like human beings and using Colin Kaepernick, who's going to get millions for this, I am thinking about the men and women who are making about 20 to 25 cents an hour over in China mass producing these shoes.
It is it's an interesting dichotomy, isn't it?
The irony there is, in my opinion, disgusting. And I don't think no matter what way you look at this, it's not going to look pretty for Nike, who has, I believe, owned 28% of the sports retail sales in the world. That is a huge chunk of the market when you have over a quarter of the market.
And for a company that size, 3% drop is, while it sounds a bit insignificant, it is a serious take note kind of number.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens in a 24-hour period, that is a we need to take notice of this kind of number.
But there is stupid that always comes with this, my friend. There is stupidity, and we love our stupidity here. Okay? Some dude who decided to burn his Nike shoes forgot to take them off.
Was that in Florida?
I don't know. I'm looking right now.
Is it real news? I mean,
no, it's real news. They're showing pictures of his feet on Twitter. They're showing his runners. Thank you, Mr. Skeptic, for posting this at #SpacedOutRadio. Some guy named Phil Braun says, my name is #mustard, and I stand for the #flag, and to honor, spelt wrong, spelled it HONER, at Big and Rich, and their sound man and the president, and I'm going to burn my #Nike shoes. Well, problem is he forgot to take them off.
Oh, there's a name I haven't heard in a while, Big and Rich.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Where'd they go? Where'd they go?
Last I saw, they honestly were at a county fair.
Oh, they're on the fair circuit. You're never doing well if you're on the fair circuit. You know it's almost over when you hit the fair circuits. You know, the local fair in Vancouver had Cyndi Lauper this year. How the hell do you dredge up Cyndi Lauper?
Hey, Cyndi Lauper is still pretty popular.
Yeah, 30 years ago. MTV doesn't even play music anymore.
I just saw her the other day on some osteoporosis or arthritis medication commercial.
She's going to be like the next Wilfred Brimley. Put a mustache on her, and she's going to be selling Quaker Oats pretty quick with her checkerboard hair.
She's only like 63.
Close enough.
You're not that far from 63. That 20 years goes fast.
18 years, man. 18 years. Holy cow. That isn't a long time. Oh, thanks for scaring me. What's in the news today, my friend? Thank you for letting me sneak in the Nike thing. I didn't know if you had it or not.
Well, I heard you mention earlier that we had some listeners in Italy.
Yeah.
So this might be a little uncomfortable because Italy's first sex doll brothel opened on Monday, and it's already booked in advance for weeks. First of all, prostitution is legal apparently in Italy, but having a brothel or a place to engage in prostitution is illegal. So this company Lumadolls opened up a brothel they have 7 female and 1 male sex dolls, which you can customize and order how you want dressed and positioned. And you can get them for up to 2 hours, a half hour to 2 hours at a time. And surprisingly, this isn't the first one of these they've opened. They have one in Russia, in Moscow, and I believe they have one, I think it might be in Barcelona. So this is slowly becoming a legitimate concept. And the owners of the company say that they believe there is a market for this, and they are ready to cash in on it, and they intend to open these sex doll brothels across Europe.
Until somebody gets an STD because they're not cleaned properly.
Well, each doll goes through a 2-hour scrubbing process after its use. But, to me, that sounds a little iffy. And at the cost, it's $93. So that would be about 80 euros for a half-hour session. Isn't that right around the price of kind of a sketchy living prostitute to begin with?
I don't know. You tell me.
I'll have to refer to some of my sources. I wouldn't know that kind of stuff.
No. You know what, though? I can understand where this is going to be popular with a lot of that fringe market that has, and I don't use this as a negative term, but I'm going to say the word deviancy. All right? And hey, if that's their thing, go for it. Who am I to say no? However, I do wonder about, the cleanliness of this. And is it going to pay off with some of these people getting, and I use pay off loosely, with some of these people being rewarded for uncleanliness in the dolls with STDs?
I think that would have to be handled by some form of local health department or something like that. I imagine that there would have to be some sort of inspection process, whether it be monthly or biannually, something like that.
Yeah, but you could say that from a brothel comparatively to somebody who's on the streets trying to make a buck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, there's definitely going to be these houses that pick up, a bunch of these dolls. They're probably second hand or third hand or 100th hand, and they don't clean them.
And you can buy the dolls. They're only $2,300. So if you wanted to start up a company like this, the investment wouldn't be huge.
Yeah, no, I'm not going there. I could see where you'd make a ton of money, but I'm not going there. I just think that's way too weird and definitely not my kink.
I just think that there's something wrong with society, and I wonder if it's the cyber society that we've kind of created where people don't really want to interact with people anymore. So, I mean, at that price, and I don't know what a prostitute costs in Italy or my town, but if you're going to pay that much for a doll, is it because you're afraid to interact with somebody, or is it because you have that kind of kink? It seems to me potentially weird.
Yeah.
Weird is all I can say.
Let's move on to story number 2.
There's this gentleman, Ian Wilson, who claims that he found MH370 while scanning Google Earth. And he says he found it in the Cambodian jungle, and he plans on organizing a trip to go there and confirm that he's found it. And if you look at this image, it does kind of fit the profile and the shape of the plane. It is a little bit bigger, but he says that there is a gap in it that would explain the length being a little bit longer. And he has scoured this. He says and claims it's MH370. Obviously, the Malaysian government just released in July, the report that they couldn't confirm that it wasn't hijacked or taken, it wasn't crashed or anything like that. They couldn't confirm what had happened to it. So he's kind of taking a look at this. And the thing is that, of course, he's a video producer.
Of course.
So, how much of this is potentially the idea that he's going to document his trip to Cambodia only to find nothing and then market the DVD?
For sure. But I mean, if you look at this image from Google Images, that plane looks intact, like it was just dropped there. You would think that there would be some singed trees around there and maybe a couple of debris fields. I don't think you're going to find a full plane sitting there if it fell out of the sky.
No, and other analysts have said it could quite possibly be a plane flying under the satellite as the photo was being taken. And just through, just through angles and that kind of thing and perspective, look like it's in the jungle when in fact it's just flying over.
Well, I hope the guy is doing it for the right sake and not trying to make a quick buck on a DVD or a Discovery or History Channel documentary.
I don't know. When these things come up, maybe I'm jaded, but I just always look at, especially when he's a video producer. I see it as a potential product he can create. And it really doesn't matter if the plane is there or not once he gets his funding and documents his journey.
Well, I don't know. That is one conspiracy. I still think that plane is sitting at Diego Garcia. I really do.
I don't know. I lean towards it's in the ocean.
Yeah, but you can't explain the cell phones, man. That's the problem. The cell phones.
Yeah, that is the one. I don't know. Maybe we will never know.
This is before the waterproof phone came out.
That's true.
All right. And when a phone is shut off, it goes straight to voicemail. So either on explosion or impact, those phones would have went in the water, which would have turned them off. And 4 days later, people are calling their phones and the phones are ringing and nobody is picking up before it goes voicemail.
One thing we learned with Bill Hauser going to the Philippines is that they have an entirely different system over there. Is it possible that Malaysia's system or the systems of the people that were on there, is it possible that some of them, while the phone was destroyed, the system hadn't caught up with that and it just rang out of basically computer processing?
But 4 days?
Yeah.
4
I'll
days
give you
after?
that.
And that was, and we're not making this up. This isn't conspiracy. This was actually reported by many prolific news sources. Never mind the Facebook being logged in. We haven't even got to that yet.
But what's the point then at this point? Parts from the plane haven't turned up. The plane hasn't been used in any attacks or anything like that. It hasn't been spotted. Even if you were going to use it for drug running or something like that, you would expect something. What do you think then happened with it, or what the purpose is?
Well, the United States has been known to confiscate aircraft.
No.
Yeah. I would say that it's probably, in-flight refueling other aircraft right now.
I'll give you that possibility.
Yeah.
Although it really wasn't set up for that. It seems it would be awful expensive to retrofit it for that.
Or maybe it's just running soldiers back and forth. Most soldiers don't know the difference between a Boeing and a MH380. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You know what? It might be one of those mysteries that lingers for quite a while, and we may never know.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's a little bit exciting to watch because anything could literally float up at any point in time, too.
Exactly. Tripp says, too many unused planes to steal one with people, unless there are 40 Chinese electronic counter warfare specialists on that plane.
But do you think the Chinese would be ignorant enough to put 40 on one plane?
Allegedly, they did.
I don't know. I have a hard time buying that.
It's a good way to get into the system by keeping them alive. Who knows? Trip brings up Amelia Earhart. Well,
Yeah,
she was in a much smaller plane and didn't have the electronics and the beacons and the radar that MH380 had.
And let's not forget that her navigator, while he was a fantastic navigator, had some personal issues that often led him to drink. So we don't know what happened if he just made errors and they ran out of fuel or what.
Mm-hmm. So, whatever it is. Let's move on to the next one.
A Japanese company is going to run the first test to build an elevator to space.
Nice.
They are going to launch this cube. It's going to be launched in a satellite. It is a 6 centimeter by 3 by 3 centimeter cube that is going to maneuver from one small satellite to another on a taut line to see how the physics and dynamics of it work, with the goal of seeing what they can do and push this forward with the idea of building a literally elevator to space. I mean, it's a long way from concept and development, but it's the first actual step by a university to make this a reality.
As much as I think that's a waste of money, trying to put an elevator into space, the concept behind it is kind of cool.
It is. And there's a construction company in Japan that they have a plan to build a 96 kilometer tube up into space.
Yeah, but
so that's
what holds it there?
It's made of a nano tube, a nano carbide fiber.
I wouldn't want to ride that tube. I could see that breaking.
Some of those resins and some of those fibers, they are much stronger than steel. I used to feel that way too. And I've looked at some of them and I think I trust them more than steel in some cases. Plus it has the ability to be lightweight.
Are they preparing for the Godzilla factor? Godzilla gets pissed off. He's going to take that down. You know that.
Do you really think Godzilla is going to be mad about an elevator to space?
Hey, if Mothra comes around?
Hey, neither one of them would fit in it.
Well, I realize that, but if they start fighting, Godzilla sometimes cannot control his tail.
You know what I wonder about with these things is when you go into a city and you stand in a skyscraper,
yeah,
even if they're only, 1,400 feet tall, when you go up to the top, you can feel it move a little bit on a windy day.
I know.
Or you can see the coffee in your cup or the liquid in your glass kind of shimmering.
Don't like that. I don't like that.
What would it be like with a tube that high into the air?
I did that ride on the Stratosphere in Vegas, that elevator ride that they have right at the peak. Okay, where it shoots you up I think you're at 986 feet at that point. And then this thing shoots you up another 100 feet to around 1,100 feet. And you could feel the bar swaying as you were being launched up, dude. That is the scaredest I have ever been. I don't like that. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of heights at all. But that scared me.
Fortunately, the last time we were there, that was closed.
Yeah, good. Let's get to the thought of the day. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we post a question on our Facebook and Twitter, and then we use your responses because we love the audience participation, and we read them on the air. So today's Thought of the Dave is, what is a spiritual quality you would either like to change or enhance in yourself? Kat says, when it comes to spiritual enhancement, I would like the ability to self-heal much more so, a way to accumulate the spiritual energy around me. Edie says, to be able to hone in on my empathic feelings. There is nothing more frustrating than feeling pain, fear, or just something's not right and not knowing who or what it is. Ellery, complete trust in God. Mira, to be humble. Sylvia says, helping others when they hide how much they need help. It's hard to tell at times. Devin states, I would like the ability to hear my guides and other multidimensional entities along with biolocation abilities. Everett, what sense do you want? Which one? Which quality?
Is mind reading a spiritual quality?
I don't know, but in Spaced Out Radio's world, let's go with that one.
That would be what I want.
That would be fun. Let's see. Mary says, helping others in pain and self-healing. Marty, the retired skeptic on Twitter, states, I would like to be able to access the Akashic records. That would be cool. Adnome, truth that is not distorted by man's controlling words, and that Dave is a gnome. Really? Went there, eh?
That first part, I really like that. I mean, the truth is, every version of the truth is distorted a little bit.
You got that right. Tim would like to help others. October says, I would like to work on being more healing towards myself and others, being more calm and talking or moving things telepathically. See, I think telepathy would be cool.
Oh,
telepathy.
That would be...
Yeah, or X-ray vision like Superman.
I got these glasses out of a comic book. You want them?
Did they work?
No, that's why I'm offering them to you.
Whoever bought those monkeys, those sea monkeys? Remember at the back of the comic books, did anybody ever purchase those sea monkeys?
I think I knew somebody as a kid that did, and I have this vague recollection that they were dead. Like,
well, they're dried out. They're freeze-dried, are they not?
You add water to it or something like that. Yeah, I think I know one person in my lifetime that bought those.
If you have ever bought those sea monkeys from the back of a comic book and they survived, get a hold of me at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter. I need to read this. Cody states, I'd like to expand into being more enlightened and seeing auras more clearly. Lisa, change people thinking. What did God do to me? 2. How can God help me deal with this? Vivster says spiritual psychic or spiritual religious. I think we're going in a little too deep there, Viv. Spiritual psychic. I'll choose one. Lori Moon Boggs, who was just a guest here a couple weeks ago. She says, dive deeper into the balance, joy, and compassion. And Susan says, I would like to be able to read people better. Brent, I wish I could actually see and sense all things in the astral realm. And we'll leave it on this from the pen man, Michael McNeil. Even though he was late on the password, a Zen master visiting New York City goes up to a hot dog vendor and says, make me one with everything. The hot dog vendor fixes a hot dog and hands it to the Zen master, who pays a $20 bill. The vendor then puts the bill in the cash and closes it. Excuse me, but where's my change? Asks the Zen master. The vendor responds, change must come from within.
Nice.
Very, very nice. Everett, what's happening? Where can people find the encounter?
They can find the encounter for now at facebook.com/SOR The Encounter Online.
And we're going to be moving those stories over very, very soon to spacedoutradio.com in the news section. Thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Excellent. Talk.
Also want to say thank you to Tessa Nicole Thomas from the Weekend Show coming in here for the first half hour of hour number 3, and Geraldine Orozco in for the Spiritual You. Tomorrow night on the program, we have Lori and Fenton coming in. MUFON, UFOs, and the Caribou Paracon. What do they all have in common? Lori and Fenton, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Don't forget, after the show, go to questers.ca. That's questers.ca. Click on the fall conference. Get your tickets for the first annual Caribou Paracon, presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers, September 28th through 30th. You only got like 3.5 weeks to get your tickets and get booked up here to come to BC. You're going to love this event, so make sure you do. Special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Special thank you to everybody on Spreaker for coming on in with your questions, at Twitter, at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and the Veterans Club, the SOR Space Travelers. Thanks for sharing the show, doing your part to make us bigger and better every single night, because together, my friends, we own the night. I'll talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.